3 days ago marked the beginning of the 42nd year of our resistance against the Mullahs regime. On June 20, 1981, Khomeini ordered his troops to open fire to the MEK's 500,000-strong demonstration in Tehran and turn it into a mass killing. The same night, mass executions began without even asking the names of the victims. Moments ago, in the Museum of Resistance, you saw a small part of the Iranian peoples suffering under the Mullahs' rule and also their resistance against the regime. 1,000 political prisoners tortured by the Shah's regime or religious dictatorship are present in this hall today. Some have lost 10 or 12 members of their families. You know about Khomeini's fatwa on the execution of all MEK who stood their ground. This, no doubt, is evidence of a strong and relentless resistance to establish a free and democratic Iran. You rightly said last October in Washington, the atrocity of 1988, the fatwa what was issued by the Ayatollah resulting in the murder of 30,000 members of the MEK was ultimately about a religion and a belief that people who believed in liberty and in freedom for Iran did not have the religion that was acceptable to the tyrants in Tehran. The MEK is also proud of stopping Khomeini's expansionist war in 1988. He had been waging war for 8 years with the slogan of capturing Quds via Karbala. But in 1988, the National Liberation Army forced Khomeini, in his own words, to drink the poison of a ceasefire in the war. A war with 1 million loss of lives, 2 million disabled and wounded, 4 million homeless, and more than $1 trillion of damage only on the Iranian side. The MEK was also the first to expose the regime's nuclear projects since 1991. In 2002, they uncovered the regime's secret sites and informed the world of its bomb-making project. Without the Iranian resistance's revelations, the Mullahs would have obtained the bomb years ago. But today I want to stress on 3 points. First, the objective conditions of Iranian society. Second, the alternative. And third, the international community's approach to religious fascism in Iran. First, the world is witnessing that conditions for change exist in Iran and people are ready for change. Protests are sparking with increasing intensity across the country. On the other hand, the regime has no answer except increasing repression, executions, or torture in its prisons. The people of Iran have the right to resist. Like the wars of independence in America, the Mullahs have occupied our country. People say in their slogans, our enemy is here. They lie when they say it's America. The Iranian resistance is a historical example of the fact that the resistance of a nation can change the course of history towards freedom. Today, we see this experience in Ukraine. Indeed, if the people of Ukraine themselves had not taken up arms, what was the guarantee to protect their country? External conditions are only effective when the fighting force on the ground is ready to pay the price. In the past year, the MEK resistance units in Iran launched more than 2,350 anti-repression campaigns that paved the way for uprisings across the country. Second, believing in a democratic Islam, the MEK is an effective antithesis to the Mullahs' sinister ideology. Look at what the Mullahs have done in the name of Islam in Iran's neighboring countries, from Iraq to Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Yemen. But our Islam rejects tyranny and misogyny. It does not ignore the rights of oppressed ethnic groups. We do not distinguish between the ways of Christ, the way of Moses, and the way of Muhammad. By raising the banner of the separation of religion and state, this alternative is a solution to establish democracy in Iran and an obstacle to Islamic fundamentalism in the entire region. The Mullahs regime has made every effort to cover up this fact. The demonization of the Iranian resistance, the censorship of its news, and denying of the popular support for resistance are all intended to cover up the truth. Now that all illusions about any reform within the regime in Iran have disappeared, the Mullahs invest on a non-existent Shah, divert the uprisings, but you rightly said, I'm confident I speak for the views of tens of millions of Americans, and I tell you with certainty that the American people support your goal of establishing a democratic, secular, non-nuclear Iranian republic. Yes, Tehran rulers are at their weakest point. They face the Iranian people's uprising for change. We can and must free Iran, the Middle East, and the world of the evil nuclear mullahs. The November 2019 uprising with its rebellious cities and the Army of Freedom showed the way to all. Third, today, the world clearly sees that the policy of appeasement of the mullahs has failed. This is a regime that gives a bomb to its diplomat to blow up the gathering of the Iranian resistance, where hundreds of distinguished international personalities were present. This is a regime that disables IAEA cameras at its nuclear sites and uses more advanced centrifuges. Yes, this regime has never given up on their quest for nuclear weapons as a guarantee for their survival. This is part of Raisi's mission. The international community must activate the trigger mechanism. The Iranian regime's dossier of human rights, violations, and terrorism, particularly the massacre of political prisoners and the crackdown on protesters in November 2019, must be referred to the UN Security Council, and the regime's leader must be prosecuted for committing genocide and crimes against humanity. If the regime does not intend to provoke wars, one army is enough. Therefore, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, must be dismantled. Like Ukraine, the Iranian people and their resistance deserve international recognition and support. The war of Iran's rebellious youth against the terrorist IRGC to overthrow the regime must be recognized.